Good evening. Welcome to the October 6, 2025 West Clermont School Board meeting. Mr. Romano, please take roll.
Mr. Patton.
Present.
Mr. Rudy.
Present.
Mr. Chumley.
Present.
Ms. Sanborn.
Present.
And Mrs. Spencer let us know that she would be absent this evening.
Thank you. At this time, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So just to go out of line just a little bit here, the children did a great job with the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys did a great job. Next up, we have the motion to adopt the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Chumley, thank you. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
4 yes.
Moving on, it's West Clermont School District recognizes our resource officers. Turn it over to Josh.
Good evening, Board of Education. At this time, I would like to call forth our West Clermont School Resource Officers to the front of the room. Come on, right there. Thank you. So October has been designated as Ohio School Safety Month, with the goal of increasing awareness of school safety programs and encouraging every Ohioan to recognize their role in keeping schools safe places for students to learn and grow. School safety balances both physical protection and psychological well-being and engages staff, students, and families and the community partners in the work. We are proud to recognize our school resource officers for the essential role they play in bringing this framework to life here in West Clermont. Each day, our SROs contribute to the safe and supportive environment through proactive safety measures, strong partnerships with school staff, and meaningful relationships with our students. Their presence reflects the best practices of collaboration between education and law enforcement, and their commitment ensures that our schools remain welcoming places for students to thrive. On behalf of the West Clermont Board of Education, we thank our school resource officers for their dedication, professionalism, and commitment to safety and well-being of our entire school community. The West Clermont School Resource Officer team includes Steve Seibert, Naya. Naya doesn't look too excited. Get an award. Chad Lutzen, Chris Godsey, and Eric Gregory. Please give me a round.
Okay, I want my chair.
Next up, it looks like our presentation from the Cleft Pike Elementary. Mr. Mason?
I got one fan. Good evening. All right, those of you that are gonna speak out, I want you guys to come line up next to me right here, okay? Just if you're voicing tonight, come on up. Over here. And we're gonna face this way. Huh? No, all right. Good evening, guys. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having Cleft Pike Elementary here tonight. I'm Curtis Mason, very proud principal. Thank you to the parents and guardians and teachers. This was a big deal for us. We really wanted to pack the house, and I think we were successful. So I just want to take a moment to celebrate some of our outstanding leaders in our building at Clough, our reading ambassadors. Having older students work with younger students is not a novel or some kind of new special concept. But what makes it special is the way these students have absolutely embraced this effort and have found some new confidence in themselves and are building confidence in our younger students in kindergarten and first grade. What is also so special, it is one thing in education to have an idea, but it's completely another thing to actually put it into action. And for that, I give all the credit to one of our reading specialists, Ms. Hannah O'Connor. This initiative was done completely organically. I didn't ask her to do it. She just saw an opportunity to instill leadership qualities into our kiddos, and she ran with it. At Clough, change and improvement starts with everyone. Every morning, for the first 15 minutes or so of school, our reading ambassadors gather the resources they're going to use with guidance from Ms. O'Connor. They go pick up the students, take them to the library or to the hallway, where they work on their heart words, letter recognition, and letter sounds. They help them make sure their homework is complete. They report back to the teacher afterwards, and have even been graphing their progress. This will continue to evolve as we adjust to what the students are learning and what they're comfortable with guiding the students with. It is a really great example of promoting leadership and opportunity for our students. So I'd like to take a few minutes for them to share now so you can hear their voice on what it means to them. And we'll just go down the row here. You ready?
My name is Paige, and I love being a reading ambassador. I love tutoring because I love helping them and watching them grow. I hope they learn more and more throughout the year. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adley, and I love being a reading ambassador because I love helping kids learn. I love watching them have fun learning. I love reading myself. I also think they learn at least something new each and every week.
Hi, my name's Ella, and I have been a reading ambassador to a first grader and a kindergartner. One of my reasons I love being a reading ambassador is because they're the sweetest. My second reason is that I want to improve on their vocabulary. My last reason is that I want them to be respectful, responsible, and safe. Thank you.
Hi, I am Violet. It is so much fun being a reading ambassador and watching the kids grow each day. It does not take much time out of your day to teach them new words. I like to practice their word fluency with them.
Hi, my name is Zariah. Reading starts with sight words, small words that lead to big success. Sometimes kids might feel like giving up, but I want them to know they can do it. Every word they learn is a step forward. As a reading ambassador, I'm here to remind everyone to keep going. Because every great author or reader starts with just one word. Every tiny word is a key to victory.
Hi, my name is Anvi, and I became a reading ambassador because I like helping younger students grow each and every day. I also want to be more responsible, and to teach them helps me in my future. I'm so glad I get to be continuing to becoming a reading ambassador because it's so nice to see them grow.
Hello, my name is Saranya, and being a reading ambassador gives me the opportunity to help younger students learn and build confidence in themselves. I want to continue as a reading ambassador because helping others learn is important and makes a difference.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and I love being an ambassador. I help first graders and kindergartens to improve their reading. I teach them how to be more respectful and responsible.
Hi, my name is Aiden, and as a reading ambassador, I'm really proud because I get to teach a kindergartner how to read to be kind, but my favorite thing is that as an ambassador, I get a challenge and a privilege.
Thank you, guys. Becky, can I get like a picture of all of them real quick? All right, guys, I want everybody to stand up. You all came on a very, very
Why don't we put them up here so the board's behind them? You can get a picture from facing this way, so, yeah. Yes, line up this way, facing that way. Yes.
Does my hair look nice?
Get your comb out.
Scoot the little guy up, yeah.
Parents, before you guys leave, you can come up.
Yeah, come up.
Come up and take pictures, guys. If you, yeah, absolutely. Yes, please come up and take pictures. Yes. Make sure you smile big, guys. Did everyone get a picture that wanted one? Great job, guys.
As they're making their way back to their chairs, I just want to take a moment to. Yeah. Well, before the parents go, I just want to say, parents, thank you. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, thank you for being there. Thank you for raising them so well.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Excuse me? He's double checking for me.
That guy must play on my fantasy football team. Because his leg is broken. Which one? The dude on the crutches. Oh. I said he must play on my fantasy football team. Because he's got crutches.
Yeah.
So as they're clearing out, next up would be our public speaking. It does not look like we have any cards. So we will move on to the consent agenda, starting with Josh.
Good evening. That's a tough act to follow right there. Good evening. In front of you is the personnel agenda for October 6th, 2025. On the agenda today, we have the acceptance of resignations for one teacher who's retiring, one health clinic assistant, and 4 paraprofessionals. We'd like to highlight our retiree, Amy Sweeney, a second grade teacher at WT. Amy has served the West Clermont district for 34 years. The agenda recommends the hiring of new personnel, including one custodian and one cafeteria worker. Also presented for approval are the proposed supplemental contracts for multiple positions. This includes coaches, club directors, and various other positions that serve beyond the school day. We have unpaid leave for multiple staff members for your approval. The agenda also proposes hiring substitute personnel for 2 cafeteria workers. The approval of multiple school volunteers across the district are presented with their associated buildings. This concludes the review of the personnel agenda submission for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said thank you. I apologize. Next up, looks like Mrs. Preston. The settlement agreement? I think so.
Good evening. This evening we have a settlement agreement for your approval. This really just reflects the mutual and amicable. This is not like a anything anyone's done like wrong. This is really just codifying a relationship and arrangement that we've made with the family.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is Mr. Dole, Eric.
Getting rowdy out there.
Good evening.
Good evening. Before you is a memorandum of understanding between the Clermont County Mental Health and Recovery Board and Child Focus. This agreement or memorandum allows us to have placed with West Clermont a qualified mental health specialist for 3 days a week, as well as some additional support for some systemic problem solving, specifically around being able to provide supports for students who are exhibiting suicidal ideation at the middle school. So this person will do some risk assessment as well as some prevention services due to the volume of students that have needs at the middle school specifically. So, no cost to the district. This is funds flowing from the mental health board to Child Focus to be able to provide this service.
So we don't have enough psychologists in our buildings now to cover the necessary needs that we need to be filled?
Well, not quite. We have a wide range of services available. This is a specific niche of service that we have traditionally found at the middle school. We have a large volume of students who, because of various reasons, are exhibiting risk behaviors, and this is an additional support for us as we try to intervene with that. Not supplanting any of the other services that we have in place.
Okay, all right, I understand now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Next up
Good
is
evening.
Randy.
Tonight we have our second reading of our policies. Just to review, going through the policies, we started this a while back. We start with our policy committee that goes through it first. Then we do our first reading, which happened in our last meeting. And then tonight we go to vote for our second reading, and then it will then go into Neola and will become active. So I'll be asking you to approve policies 2266 through 9270 as far as revisions, new and language changes, and then policies 1422 through 4362. Those were replacements, some rescinded, and then some technical corrections throughout those. And I'll be asking you to approve those tonight as well. I haven't had any questions throughout this monthly process that we've gone through. I will note that I have run this through legal, as well as I said in the last meeting. I would let them check some things as well, and we have run those through legal. And we feel confident moving forward. This has been the last 16, 18 months. There's been a lot of changes, and there'll be a lot of changes forthcoming, and we'll just keep meeting and go through this. And the next one that we would expect would probably be February, and then we'll bring the committee together again for that. There's no questions there, then now we'll be moving on to 7.05 through 7.07. This is in lieu of transportation. We do this once a year or throughout the year when it becomes needed. In lieu of transportation allows the district to pay for transportation of students instead of adding bus routes. This is cost effective for us to do so. So the 3 schools that we are asking for in lieu transportation tonight are the 3 schools as listed up there, and they are Cincinnati Christian Hills, Cincinnati Classical, and St. Gertrude. Cincinnati Classical, I looked that up as well, and that's a liberal arts school, community school that's in Reading, and it's a standalone school that students go to as well, and so I kind of wanted to see what that was, and we do have students that go there. I will note that last year, our in lieu, we had 37 students, and you can see the names of those in your executive content, and this year we're at 26, and so the number is down this year, but it is a cost savings to the district because we don't have to add routes for these particular, and routes are very, very expensive, as you know. So we'll be asking you to approve in lieu transportation for the students presented for those 3 schools tonight.
Thank you, Randy. Moving on to Mr. Romano.
Okay. Item 7.08 is a request for approval of minutes. That is for the meeting that was held on September 22nd. It was a regular business meeting. Item 7.09 is request for approval of donations as presented. I'll read them briefly. First is an anonymous donor donated $100 to Withensville Tabasco lunch balance.
Legion Post 484 donated a basket of coffee pods, flavored water packs, plates, creamer, bowls, etc. for Clough Pike Elementary for the staff lounge. The VFW Ohio Charities donated $5,000 to the following schools. That's to each of the schools, $5,000. West Clermont Middle School, West Clermont High School, Summerside Elementary, and Willowville Elementary. Richard Spalding donated 60 Christian Incarnation Strand Reds bobbleheads to Amelia Elementary. Item 7.10 are the request for approval of contracts, basically authorization for the superintendent and treasurer to negotiate and execute contracts. There are two of them being requested. The first is the Greater Cincinnati Business Advisory Council, Hamilton County ESC, and that is for the BAC, which we term it. And then the second one is for our architects, SAP, West Clermont, or for West Clermont School District to do a facility assessment.
So this is for the facility assessment that they've already done?
No, so this is new. So what was previously done was for the OFCC master plan that was put together. So some assessments were done at that time, but this is going to be for all 9 of our schools. It'll be in 2 phases. The first phase, and Chuck and Randy, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but the first phase is for the 3 schools, the middle school, Merwin and Holly Hill, which are the oldest and have the highest need. We anticipate that to be delivered to us by December 31st. And then it's possible that the remaining 6 could be done by that time too, but the second phase will be the remaining schools within the district to do that same facility assessment.
Okay.
To go forward. The intent of that is to help us put together a capital plan, full well knowing that those 3 schools have the highest need, and that way in January we can come back to the board and present that capital plan with some of those activities starting the summer of '26. I get that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And we'll probably do an update at the next board meeting, talk a little bit about what this is going to entail for December.
Before you do the work then?
Okay.
What it will entail before you start doing the work?
I'm sorry,
I said you're going to tell us what it will entail before you start doing the work?
You will approve it before we start doing the work. So yes,
Okay.
that capital plan will identify the needs for those buildings. It'll be prioritized. There'll be an estimate with it. We'll request a budget approval for it. And then actually before the work is done, because most of that is construction work that would probably need to be bid, we'll have that presented to the board too.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good question. Item 7.11 is request for approval of purpose and budget statements as presented. There are 2 of them there, which are for the school principals accounts, one for Holly Hill and one for Willowville. And so the consent agenda is items 7.01 through 7.11.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. You've heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second with a statement. It's Edwin Encarnacion Strand.
Bobblehead.
I should have practiced that one. All right.
Mr. Rudy made it first, and Mr. Chumley seconded it. Is there any other discussion? The only comment that I'll make, and we see the donations every time we do this, and I really do appreciate the donations. I'm sure that each of the buildings appreciate the donations. It really does take the community to help move us along as well, and so I really do appreciate that. So, roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
4 yes.
So it looks like we're moving on. Ms. Preston.
Report card.
Good evening. While Mr. Romano cues up the presentation here, I want to I shared some of this information at our education committee meeting. And so I just want to emphasize kind of 3 key points. If you hear nothing else that I say tonight, there are 3 things that I really want you to kind of cue into as the biggest, thank you, as the biggest takeaways tonight. Number 1, well, maybe 4 things. Number 1, we are still a district on the rise. This still remains true. We are proud of the progress that we've made and that we continue to make and we will continue to make. That progress and that being a district on the rise is really measured by 3 key metrics that have been our metrics now for 5+ years. Those 3 key metrics, the first one is our district's performance index score. And so that score is comprised of points that we are given for the performance level of every student across every tested subject area and every grade. And the better that students do, the higher the points, is essentially, without getting too technical and too mathy. But it really does reflect the achievement of all students across our system, beginning in 3rd grade and beyond. And so our district's performance index score is yet again higher than it's been before. We're almost back to pre-COVID times, and we all know just how different things are than they were during COVID. And so that's one metric that, again, we've been using consistently that really reflects kind of the overall health of our system. And so our district's performance index score continues to be higher than it's been. Our second metric that we look at is our growth measure. That shows the progress that students are making. And so if you think about achievement as being like what they actually achieved, and growth really representing the gains that they've made over time. Our district's progress score continues to be higher each year. So much so that our district's progress component ranks us in the top 13% across the entire state of Ohio. And so, again, that's an indicator of the health of our system, that not only are we helping students achieve at higher and higher levels each year, but the growth that they're making well exceeds the expected growth of a student over the course of a school year. So we're really proud of both achievement and progress. And then the third measure is our graduation rate. And so, our goal is that every student graduate from West Clermont prepared for anything, not just something. And you can't do that if you're not graduating. And so our graduation rate is the highest that it's ever been. And when we get into graduation rate, you'll remember that what's measured on a report card is the graduating class of 24. And so the graduating class of 25 is even higher than what's being reported on the report card. And so we are really proud, and that reflects not only the significant efforts of our high school, but also the efforts of our middle school and our elementary, because as we know, students who are more prepared to enter middle school and more prepared to leave middle school into high school, all of that is factored into their ability to graduate on time with a plan, prepared for what is to come next. And so if you really, the presentation is meant to go a little bit more in the weeds as it relates to the various report card measures, but those are really the 3 key takeaways that I think are important for you as a board, and that you should be able to stand confident in our district, proud of the efforts that really you have helped spearhead, that you've supported financially, and we're really proud to continue to see strong returns on those investments. So again, that's like the big, I'm starting with the punchline at the beginning, but I'll really continue to emphasize those points as we go through. I could talk about this for hours on end, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but know that if you have questions as I'm going through these, please stop. It's really meant to be an opportunity for you to really understand a bit more. Well, let's see here. Let's turn this sucker out maybe. Oh, there we go. Okay, so
Just point and click it.
clicking it at Dan. Okay, so So you know that report cards for a few years now have been measured with a star rating. I will say that one thing that is different about this year's report card that makes it difficult to compare last year's report card to this year's report card is that there is a new measure that has been included. And so last year, all of the components that were included did not have one that is included this year, which is the college career workforce and military readiness. So it's a little difficult when you're looking at our overall star ratings from last year to this year. If you were just looking at that at face value, you might think like, ugh, like some things have like maybe gone sideways. It's because there's a new measure that's factored into the equation. And really, if you look across the state, that new measure really impacted many districts in the same way that it did us. Well, I'll talk more about that as we move forward. And again, that's one of those measures that's kind of reported like 2 years, ago. So we already know that moving forward, we're already better than what we were at that time. So again, I'll talk a bit more about that. But those three measures, achievement, progress, and graduation rate, those really have been our key metrics all along. I don't know, why don't you just be my Vanna, Dan?
I don't know why.
Okay, so one of the things that's really important to us is that we are building systems of excellence, not just pockets of excellence. We really aspire to be a 5-star district across the board. And oftentimes what you find in districts of our size is a fairly wide range of discrepancies between buildings. You might have some buildings that are, 1s or 2s and others that are 4s and 5s. And while we're not quite yet where we want to be across the board, we do not have any buildings that are not at least meeting state expectations. And so that's something that really does show that our efforts to build those systems of strength across our district, this is one of those ways that you can see the evidence of that. Speaking of sort of systemic differences, I also think it's really important to kind of unpack some of the differences that we know exist in districts. And I point this out not as an excuse, but just as a lens through which to review not only our district's results, but other districts' results. And so this really shows that when you look at some of those differences that exist across our system, for example, the size of a district. Our total enrollment across others in the county, clearly we're the largest district in the county. When you look at other districts, like mobility of students, and so that really looks at students who move between schools or between districts, so students who come to us in the middle of a school year or who go from one elementary school to another elementary school within the same year. That clearly is a factor that can impact student achievement and progress. And so when you look at the large numbers and percentages of students who have that the mobility, when you look at students who come from a place of economic disadvantagement, that's a factor. When you look at students with disabilities or English learners, and if you look at over time, our English learner numbers have grown, and that's one that's really dramatically different when you look across the county. Many districts have, fewer than 10 students who are English learners, and many of our English learners come to us as newcomers, which means they really come with no prior experience in school, with very limited, if any, English. And yet, in sort of with these systemic differences in place, we don't see these as excuses. We see these as opportunities to really be many students' last best hope to really create a pathway for their future. And it's an additional layer of pride that we have that, in spite some of those differences, or despite some of those differences, we still really are doing well. So again, this is really just that performance index where I said to you it's the highest that it has been since pre-COVID. And I'll just highlight for you our high school. Our high school alone increased their performance index by over 5 points. And that is in many ways unheard of. And it's such a dramatic increase that really is a testament to the intentional work of teachers in course groups together. And it will earn them the Momentum Award for this past school year. If you remember, the district has earned the Momentum Award in the past. We've had the middle school earn the Momentum Award. Willowville has earned the Momentum Award, Holly Hill, etc. And so now it's the high school's turn to have earned that award. And so we're really, really proud of the continued accomplishments of our students. And this really goes to show we're setting high bars for all students, and we're really working to ensure and to help them achieve at those high levels. The purpose of this graph, and I think it really helps to illustrate that, if you look back to like the 18-19 school year, where our performance index was a bit higher than what it was on this past report card, what you'll see is that our blue like diamond was really pretty close to that state or that state square, which really represented the average across the state. And so where we were was really almost about where the state was. If you look over our past 4 years, really actually past 5 years, what you notice is that we're breaking apart from that state average much more so than we previously had. And so it really is just an indication of the intentional efforts that we're taking and the accelerated gains that we're making that exceed any gains that other districts across the state, the average of those across the state would be making. And so the wider that gap, it's just again another indication of really the intentional and kind of the dramatic gains that we're seeing. And so that's really exciting for us to see. Again, this is like another way of just illustrating, seeing in a visual form, and this is our performance index by school year. And so if you look back to that 2021 year to where we were in the 24-25 school year, again, you can just see the steep and the sort of dramatic, increases that we've been seeing. When we look specifically at by content area, so math, 3rd, 4th grade, algebra, geometry, again, you can sort of see these gains over time. You can go to the next one, Dan. Same thing as it relates to particular content areas or, end of course assessments. And again, back to the efforts of the high school, this really reflects the investment that we've made, not just at the high school, but really across our system in being able to find time for teachers to come together to really work as collaborative groups. Like being an educator is really hard work, and it's even more difficult if you try to go it alone. And so this really reflects the efforts for teachers to really support one another. We always believe that the room is smarter than any one person, that together we're able to come to better solutions, that we're able to support one another in seeking ways to support student needs. And so this really reflects the outcome of those efforts. So going back to our second way that we measure really the health of our system is related to that progress component, the growth that students are making relative to what would have been expected for them to make. So the analogy that I was trying to give to the education committee was, if you think about every student who took assessments across the entire state, based on their past performance, they would be lined up in a row. And in order to be considered to have made your expected growth, the next year you have to kind of maintain that place in line. If you fall back in line, you're going to have like negative growth. And if you move up further in line than where you were the year before, your growth is going to be positive. That's like a real basic simplified explanation for what's a pretty complicated metric. And so when you look at West Clermont, our gain index was positive 7.31. And so as a group, all of our students across every tested subject area and every grade, from 4th grade through our high school end of course exams, their gain index was over 7 points, which places us in the top 13% across the entire state. And so when you look at and so they moved up to this place. And then the next year they have to like maintain that place. Like they don't go back to like being judged against where they were the year before. And so as you continue to perform better and better, it gets even more challenging to maintain like those places, you know, in line. And so we're really, really proud to see that this has been something that isn't just like a one-year fluke, but we've seen this kind of progress over time for multiple years in a row. So when you look at this, do you have a question?
So that 7.31, what is that? Like, what does that number kind of mean?
So like a 0, if it were 0, that really would, again, in really simplified ways, would mean that as a group, everybody just kind of maintained their place in line. Like 0 is considered...
Is that out of like 7.31 out of something, or?
Well, I mean, it's out of, I mean, I don't know that there's like an infinite number that it could be, but it's really, if you go back to the previous slide, Mr. Romano. So when you look at it's like the actual growth that happened minus what was expected to happen divided by the standard error of measurement.
Gotcha.
So it kind of depends on based on what they were supposed to do, subtracted from what they actually, well, what they did minus what they were supposed to do divided by the standard error, like how wide of a discrepancy it was.
I'm like a -5, so
well,
it took me a second.
Yeah, it is pretty complicated. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a 0 is really a year's represents like a year, what would be expected to happen. So if you'll move to the next slide. So one thing that I think is just really, relevant to you, sorry, this keeps coming off here. What I think is really relevant to you and your role as a board is, it's sometimes easy to forget memory lane a little bit and remembering all of the things that you helped set in motion, many years ago. And so if you look at these last 3 years, those last 3 years line up with your decision to invest in instructional materials, curriculum revision, professional development, all of what came from that really intentional effort and the allocation of resources, human capital. This is like the most dramatic return on investment that I would think a board could really hope for. And so we're really proud. We're really proud of that. And I think that no one wants, what we really are striving for as a district, and we talk about this with our administrators a lot, is we want to be a district that is considered a learning and leading district, where we're able to really draw connections between the decisions that we're making, the intentional efforts that we're putting forth across the whole system, and then the results that we're getting as a result of that. And that stands in contrast to being like a lucky district or like a losing district, where you might get lucky, like, oh, like we did well, but like we have no idea what conditions, what contributed to us having gotten the results that we got. And so we're really working very closely with our teachers, with our administrators to be, and nothing's ever a perfect science, but we want to be able to replicate success year after year after year. And that really only comes from having a deepened understanding of like what it took for you to get the results that you did get. And so this really, so to consistently year over year be able to have those results as a direct follow-up to some of the decisions that we intentionally began making there, I think is one strong indication that investing in those resources and professional learning and people really does make a difference. And you can see that then when we look at results related to, to math. Again, positive gain indexes directly following years of curriculum implementation. Science, science has always been an outlier in a really positive way. And science is kind of measured a little differently because the science exam is not given every year. It's only in certain key grade levels, but our science teachers really have always gone above and beyond. And this is the one, and I shared this with the education committee. This is probably the one we're most excited about right now, is that for the first year, and this is across the entire system, we've had pockets of certain grade levels or certain buildings where we've seen positive value-added gain indexes. But across the entire system, 1 year following the first year of our ELA course of study implementation, we've for the first time seen a gain index that was almost a 2. And so this really, I think, is just the beginning of what we'll be able to continue to see over time. So this is another way of looking at both achievement and progress, and it's related to specific student subgroups. And so it's really important for us to not only look at the health of our system for all students, but also specific groups of students. We really want to ensure that that our system is good for all students, and so what this really looks like is related to these achievement goals for various subgroups, and then the next slide is looking at the growth goals. And so we have a few student subgroups that we still are working towards closing that achievement gap for. But when you look at the progress measure, so the progress that they've made, if they haven't quite met that achievement goal yet, they're exceeding the progress measure. And so this is an indication to us that we're moving significantly in the right direction, and it's just a matter of time before we're able to close that achievement gap as well. So this graph is looking at chronic absenteeism. It is no surprise to any of you that really post-COVID, all districts have been struggling to have students showing up to school. And so chronic absenteeism reflects students who've missed 10% or more of school. And that comes from having missed like full days, or just having a bunch of tardies and coming to school late every day or leaving early every day. And so we've really worked hard over the last few years to be as intentional as possible about removing barriers that stand in the way of students being able to get to school as often as we need them to. And so the bottom graph is really looking at the percentage of students who are considered chronically absent in our district. And so we're seeing a decline, which is moving in the right direction. 29% of students being chronically absent is still way too high, and we're not thrilled with that, but we are definitely pleased that it's moving in the right direction. And the top graph is looking at our overall attendance percentage, and so we're seeing higher percentage of students coming to school and a lower percentage of students who are considered chronically absent. And so our intentional efforts continue, and we're part of statewide efforts, and and this is something that I think continues to just be an education piece for families as well. It's easy, and don't get me wrong, we don't want students who are sick coming to school. That's not what this is about. But there are often times where we know it's challenging to, for my own, I will just speak as a parent of 4 children of my own. There can be times where it's challenging to, have everybody up and ready and out the door on time, and And life is sometimes not easy, and there are a lot of challenges that come from just getting everybody where they need to be. But it really does take a partnership, and so our resource coordinators and their efforts are really designed to continue to bridge those gaps that might exist, and to really partner with families around helping students get to school. So that third indicator that really is the one that we've been looking at consistently is around graduation rate. And so again, graduation rate is one of those measures where it's like a year in reverse. And so we kind of already took liberties to tell you what our graduation rate is going to be for the class of 25, because we're just like so excited about it, we can't help ourselves, even though that was not the measure that was on the actual report card. The 4-year graduation rate reported on the report card is for the graduating class of 24. And so that was a 94% graduation rate, which is higher than it's been, than it's ever been anyway. But our graduation rate for the class of 25 is 97.4%. And so again, if you look at just a few, and some of you were on the board at that time, if you were to walk down memory lane just a few short years ago, our graduation rate was under 90%. And that was, we were not pleased at all with that. And so this again is really a reflection of very intentional efforts on the part of our high school staff, but across the system, getting more students ready for high school so that they can graduate on time, and not just graduate, having gone through the motions, but really graduating with an intentional plan and a pathway for their future. And so we are so thrilled, beyond thrilled as it relates to this. And you should be too. So the second to the last measure is our early literacy component. And this is a measure that it is comprised of a couple different things. One part of it is looking at an off-track to on-track percentage. And the state is still trying to figure out the best way to measure this. The way it is right now, and there's sort of pending legislation to even modify this yet again. This is kind of the measure that keeps on changing a bit. But the way that it's currently measured looks at a fall to fall measure. So the percentage of students who are off track in the fall of kindergarten compared to those same students in the fall of first grade. And then another cohort of students who are off track in the fall of first grade compared to those same students in the fall of second grade, and so on and so forth. And so one of the just challenges, the inherent challenges of that measure, is that the fall is the beginning of the school year. And we know the beginning of the school year was immediately preceded by summertime. And so all of the gains that a student has made from the fall of a grade level to the end of that grade level, that the measurement doesn't come from that. It comes from the beginning of the next school year. And so one of the things that we sort of took a step back this year to take a closer look at was, we were administering our diagnostic assessments pretty early. You have 30 days from the beginning of the school year to the end. You have 30 days to give these assessments. And we were wanting to get as much information about students as soon as they came into school, so that we could really then intentionally target instruction for them. And what we found was that's actually not giving us credit for all of the gains and the growth that the student actually made during the immediate, the grade before that. So the fall to the end of the year progress. And so we intentionally this year held off on that and gave kids an opportunity to come back to school and remember all the things that they were in a rhythm for having learned right before they left for summer. And so based on our fall diagnostic data from this year, and I'll just use our kindergarten to first grade numbers, for example, over 80% of the students who were off track in kindergarten were now on track in first grade. And so it is doubled the percentage of students that were measured on this year's report card. And it's because of some intentional efforts, absolutely, but it's also because like we just needed to be a little, we just needed to give ourselves credit for all of the efforts that our teachers and our reading specialists were putting into this. And so, so this really, I guess it's a long way of saying that we really don't believe that those 2 stars from this year actually reflected the progress and the growth that students made. And so, so with a few just kind of intentional tweaks, we're well on our way to next year having our report card measure really reflect the efforts that, that we put into this. So you can, this is kind of all wrapped up into that same piece. Oh, back, one more. One more back. So the last measure, and again, this is that new measure, is it's a mouthful, the College Career Workforce and Military Readiness component. And in its like truest, kind of most, if you kind of get at the heart of what this measure is really supposed to measure, I think it's actually measure something that we as a district really also believe in. And what it's trying to say is that there are lots of different ways that students can demonstrate readiness, and that they can demonstrate that they have developed the knowledge and skill to prepare them for success at whatever that might mean for them post-graduation. And so kind of on the bottom there, it gives like a list of all the different ways that a student can meet this, this indicator. And so again, this is a measure that's like, we're looking at class of 24 data, and that class of 24 data, that was even before, like, we had built systems to be able to like really try to not only capture this information, but help people really understand how to approach this with the kind of intentionality that it sort of takes. And so I'll just use like one example. One of the ways that you can demonstrate readiness as measured by this indicator is looking at the number of like dual enrollment credits that a student has earned. And so if a student earns 12 or more college credits while in high school, that is one indicator that that's one of the ways that they can meet this. So we had lots of students taking CCP courses. As we kind of began to like unpack this, we found that there were many students who had 9 credits or 11 credits, or they had 9 CCP credits plus they had 2 AP scores. And one of the ways you can get it is having 3 or more AP tests with 3 points or higher. And so it was really an indication to us that we have many students who are doing so many of these things, and with just a little bit more intentionality and a little bit more education for students, for staff, for parents around like the why of this, we're going to be seeing exponential gains in this, and it's really our goal in the short term that 100% of our students have met at least one of these indicators. And we're really back mapping a system that begins in elementary school, where students are beginning like with career awareness, for example, and just learning about all the kinds of jobs that exist in their community, all the way up to graduation, where they've had an opportunity to kind of take a deep dive into learning about the things that their own skills, their own interests, and the potential career pathways that might exist for them aligned with those areas of interest and skill, so that they can have a real clear path and a real clear plan that begins, the seeds of which were beginning to be planted in elementary, that they were able to explore in middle school, that then in high school they were really able to develop and have experiences aligned with those. And so this really, to me, is an exciting frame, like this offers us an exciting framework to really, to really tighten our system, where we do believe that, that not every student is created equally. Like, they all have their own unique interests, and we want to really allow students to develop and be poured into in lots of different ways. And so just helping kids understand which of these is like the best plan for them and how they can ensure that they are prepared to graduate having met one of those is really something that we're just really excited about what this is going to allow us to be able to do for all students. So, one more slide. So, in summary, do you want to say something before?
Just something small. You said some students have 9, 11 credits. Is there a credit threshold to meet to be able to qualify?
It's 12 or more college credits, yeah. So it's like 12 or more college credits, 3 or more AP with 3 or plus better points. And you can't do like a combination of those things. So it's really just about building awareness of some of those on the part of students as they're making, decisions, and for us to lay that out in a way that really just helps make it clear for kids. Like, this is really a choice that makes more sense for you based on X, Y, Z kinds of things. So really with some small tweaks, like we have all the recipe, all the ingredients of the recipe. Like that's the great news. It's really just a matter of like putting it all together in a way that can help people clearly like know what to do with the ingredients that we have in place for them. So again, to kind of like summarize kind of those 3 key points, we have, the highest performance index score that we've had since COVID, and those gaps, we're like continuing to separate ourselves from the state, and the high school will be awarded the Momentum Award. Despite all those systemic differences that exist, those are not excuses for us. It's helping. Even with those happening, we're performing competitively across the county. Our progress, our value added, puts us in the top 13% of the state. And again, we see our highest growth coming directly from us having had multiple years of implementation of our curriculum revision cycles. We're closing gaps for students, either through them meeting their achievement targets or through their growth targets. Graduation rates are the highest they've ever been and continuing to grow, and we're really working to ensure that every student has a path to post-secondary readiness, regardless of the things that they're interested in, and that, again, students can be prepared really for anything, not just something. So that concludes my presentation. I don't know if anyone has any questions?
That's awesome. So
Comments?
those are the highest graduation rates?
Ever, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is the district also judged on the number of technical students, I don't want to say technical, students going to the Oaks and their assessment?
Yeah, so that college career readiness, workforce, military readiness, that indicator, the big mouthful one of the ways that they can demonstrate readiness is through some like career technical like web exams, and also through military enlistment. Some of our students, that's like a pathway that they may have taken at the Oaks. And so we actually, Mrs. Ott and myself were a part of a call last week, this week, I don't know, sometime recently, I guess last week, where it was done in conjunction with the Oaks to make sure that that we're working in alignment with one another and in conjunction with one another, because they want to ensure in the same way that we do that all of their students are graduating with one of these indicators in place. And so it really for us is we want to be able to make an assumption that when they go to the Oaks, they're going to be well prepared to be able to be successful in, they call it being a completer of a career technical field. And so that means that you've successfully completed like all years of the program, plus then taken sort of whatever the final exam or series of final exams would entail. So sometimes it's the completion of a pre-apprenticeship, sometimes it's the completion of web exams or other career technical exams. And so when students do that, then they are reported for both the Oaks and for the district as someone who has met that indicator.
The word I was looking for was credentials. So if a student there does not get the credential, does that count against
Yeah.
West Clermont?
Yeah.
Which is totally beyond the control of anybody here.
Yeah, and correct. And so it really is, it's kind of like where we want to really be partnering with them to ensure that, that they are completing their program successfully so that they will be able, whether it's the industry recognized credential that they needed to earn, that they've like actually earned it, or if that they were going to need an alternate pathway, that alternate pathway has been, you know, available to them. So absolutely, it would be something that would reflect negatively on the district.
I personally think it's grossly unfair
Yeah.
to rate us on something that we're not involved in.
Yes, I don't disagree, and yet they are our students, and so we want to really ensure that that a diploma, you know, graduating from West Clermont High School means that you have demonstrated this readiness. So it will continue to, I think, the relationships between the career technical schools and the home schools will continue to evolve and to be more aligned as time goes on. I think that in that way it's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Does each pathway hold the same weight? Like, if they were to enlist in the military, would that hold the same weight as someone getting 12 credit hours?
Yeah. And again, I think that's meant to, at the heart, really reflect that readiness can be measured in lots of different ways, which I do believe our community really does value.
Can they also earn, is there a pathway for working?
Yeah, so one of the pathways, it's a combination of, Ohio has created, it's called the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal, and so it's a whole host of really career, sort of durable skills, you know, things like punctuality and, you know, attention to detail, and so there's a seal that you can earn through like successful completion of those Ohio Means Readiness job like tasks. And that is combined with 250 hours of work-based learning experiences. And so those can come from actually working a job, they can come from participating in career-related activities, you know, job shadowing, internships, guest speakers, a whole host of things. And so those two things combined together is one of the ways that indicator can be met for students.
It's always struck me as something that shows that you have to work against it to not be able to graduate, because you've got all these options, and that one is a great one.
Yeah, absolutely.
For kids that don't have maybe, you know, talents otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's really, we're working to help build a personalized system where we really are helping students really understand, you know, themselves as learners and their future plans for themselves, and helping to really line those things up for them.
I was going to mention all that they already stole from me to mention. No, I will say my comment will be brief, but it's, you know, there was a lot of things that took us to this place, you know, like the graduation rate. But really my appreciation goes to the teachers and the students for them showing up every day, doing their job, doing what needs to be done, and getting our kids. It really is, it's the teachers and our students that have got us to this place, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I said in the education committee, like, I have the honor of being the spokesperson of this, but this really reflects the efforts of our teachers, our support staff, our students.
It's our building principals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Supplying what needs to be done. It's our teachers meeting kids where they are, where they need to be. Like, it's,
yeah, absolutely.
They're really the boots on the ground, so
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Preston.
Dr. Foltz?
I just want to reiterate what Mr. Patton just said and what Ellie said today is you see on the news a lot, public education being ridiculed or mocked for a variety of things, and I challenge anyone to come into the West Clermont School District, any school that we have, and you're going to see amazing, high-quality staff teaching amazing things and students learning it. And so that, as a superintendent, gets me excited to come to work every day. Also, I don't want to take Dan's thunder, but I just wanted to mention that last week we had the Take Care of Yourself Fair. It's a third annual. And part of the Take Care of Yourself is wellness, physical wellness, financial wellness, mental wellness, and I believe the staff had a great time. We had a little pep rally at the football field to kick it off, and hopefully pictures and video will be forthcoming. But walking around and getting positive feedback from the vendors and from staff, just talking about what a wonderful day it was. I wanted to just say, just bring that up and say we're proud of having that program. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Mr. Romano?
So I'm glad he did that because I was so blown away by that presentation that I would have forgotten it. So I'm glad you did bring that up. So this is off the cuff, okay? This isn't like something I've written down beforehand. But I'm going to ask you to write down 2 sets of numbers and 2 phrases, okay? Because I think it's really, really important. So the first set of numbers is what Ellie talked about. And that was we performed in the top 13%, right? Which means, so that's 13% is one number. The second number of that set, that first set, is we outperformed 87%. That's what that meant. If we're in the top 13, did I say that right? Right? We outperformed 87%. Second set of numbers, okay? And this goes back to the 23-24 CUP report and how we spend money, okay? We ranked in the bottom 17%, which meant almost a little bit opposite because the second number then is 83% of the state spent more per pupil than we did, okay? If you go back and think of the growth that Ellie stated to us in that presentation as a benchmark from 2020 up to now, okay, we were spending in the lower 5%, 6%, okay? So those 2 sets of numbers, 13 and 87% on performance, 17 and 83% on how we spent. That's something we should remember when asked about what's going on with the school district. I think those are some sound data facts to present. The 2 phrases that I would say is, one is, and I just didn't get it before, but intentionality, okay, of the efforts, okay? This was very specific on how it was all put together. You know, she's not just a curriculum leader, she's the architect of this whole thing, okay, with a lot of other people coming together to do it. I mean, it really takes a lot to put that all together. Why I'm sitting here smiling is because, you know, most treasurers don't want to spend money. But when we have something where it's very intentional, it really adds purpose to it. So about 2 weeks ago, someone asked me how I would describe how we put our budgets together, okay? And it's purpose-driven, okay? So there's intentionality in where those efforts are. There's very direct purpose in where we put our money to make some things happen, okay? So the 2 sets of numbers and those 2 phrases, I think are there. As you mentioned, there were a lot of things that put this all together, but I'll go back to about, I think it was 2 years ago, when a survey was taken, and one of the questions was, did the staff feel that they had their resources to do their job? Okay, I mean, I'll paraphrase it, but I believe that's what it was. That survey was taken, I think, in January or February, and it was not positive results, and a few of us went through the roof because it's like, wait a minute, we're providing the resources, why don't you have it? And before that year ended, the administrative team, through the principal, said, you tell us what resources you need, okay, and we'll make sure you have them. And I think if that question was asked today, I would hope that people would say they do have those resources. But the money that they have to spend, and people don't even know this, but I think the curriculum department is doing a great job of decentralizing some of the budget. So not just the curriculum centrally says, here's how you spend the money, but as those curriculums are put in place, they're allocating money to the schools for those teachers to spend, right? For those departments to spend and the principals to spend, within those curriculums. That is really important, okay? Because then they have the ability within that framework of the curriculum to decide what to spend the money on. Hopefully I'm making sense. If I'm not, I apologize. But that's really, where we've come is really important, okay? And I just don't know how to stress it. And we can go back to the phrase that we don't, we're not spending money needlessly, we're spending it very purposefully and where it should be spent. That presentation is what it's all about, on how we spend it. When we moved from 5% up to 17%, okay, that was very intentional, okay, to get those outcomes, that she presented tonight. So that's there. So I apologize for, I'm really, as a fiscal officer, really excited about those results. I mean, that's why it all comes together with it, okay, to do it. The biggest thing is, for me, is none of that could be done unless the board had their aspirations, which they did, number one. But just as important, and maybe more important, is I felt you believed we could do it. So not just, first is having them. The second thing is, if you didn't believe we could do it, it would not have gotten done. Okay, that belief, within the administration, within a team of people, has to be there. The third part of that is, although we directed the resources to curriculum, you've got it's probably the front 2 or 3 rows here. You've got other people that run the departments that need to support that whole thing, okay? So from making sure that the buildings are clean, to making sure the staff is in place, to making sure that operationally things are running the right way, okay? Some of that strategically is making sure we're going in the right direction and doing all those things. So all this stuff comes together, as with it. So I'll stop there because I think, as Ellie said, she could go all night with it, and I probably could too. My final one is this. You had mentioned about being able to stand in confidence, okay? That was the greatest example that we had with those students. And I don't know if some people saw, but there were 3 students that didn't have their note cards with them and just spoke right off of it. Well, that's standing in confidence right there.
And we have to thank CFI because they're the ones that came up with the aspirational statements.
Yeah.
To me, that was worth the entire amount of money we paid them.
The last thing is on advocacy. So Superintendent and I met with Representative Byrd today. There's 2 bills that within the next 2 weeks may come out and go forward. One of them is House Bill 186. We had a great discussion on that with Representative Byrd today and some efforts to try and push that forward so more communication could be done with it. The second one was on House Bill 309. Both of those are aimed at property taxes. If I were to give you another set of numbers to think about, it is in 2020, don't hold me to these numbers, but they're pretty close. 55% of our dollars came from local, or came from the state, 45% locally. Today, 67% locally, 33% from the state. And that's because the state has not given us additional revenue. Any additional revenue with the growth that we have has come from our local community. And so we can sit here and apologize that maybe that's a burden on the local community, but that's getting us the results that we have today. So we're still advocating to get targeted relief. With that, we're not abandoning that, and we still have to move forward. But it was a good conversation today with Representative Byrd.
Thank you. Moving on to board comments, we will start with Ms. Sanborn.
I'd like to thank the Clough Pike students for coming tonight, and they did a phenomenal job. I've never heard students talk so eloquent at a board meeting before, and that's kudos to the principal and the assistant principal and their teachers that teach them every day about being a great leader. Maybe the leader in me is really working very hard with that school district and our other school districts. And thanks to Mrs. Parker for leading that way, and leader in me. She's done a phenomenal job. Thanks to Ellie tonight for doing the presentation. I was really amazed at how far we have come. We've come a long way since I've been on the board, and I've seen all the good work that has been accomplished, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Chumley?
Yeah, I'll continue to piggyback off of you guys. I love the presentation. You mentioned a lot of that was the aspirations that were in place previously, and that we believed and you guys to accomplish it, but I think it goes beyond that. I knew you guys could accomplish that, and I know you guys can accomplish further goals that we have set. It's more than just that I believe in you guys. I truly mean when I say that we have the best team. And to continue that celebration, we were honored. We got this earlier today from OSBA. We received the Distinction Award. I'll read what they had to say here. On behalf of the officers, trustees, and staff of the Ohio State School Boards Association, I would like to commend the West Clermont Local School Board on becoming a recipient of the 2025 OSBA Ohio Board of Distinction Award. The Ohio Board of Distinction Award recognizes school boards that engage in a defined set of required and optional activities and model behaviors that lead to excellence in local school district governance in support of quality education. Each member of your board participated equally in these training and service activities to earn this award, clearly demonstrating your leadership team's strong commitment to serving your district and community. OSBA would like to honor your board at the upcoming Capitol Conference, which I think will be great for us in our district. This is a great honor, not just for us, but it shows the hard work that you all put in. We get to reap some of those rewards, but it's all you guys, and so I would like to thank you for that and your continued work. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shumley. Mr. Rudy?
I want to really recognize Mrs. Preston. That was like a session of report cards for dummies, me being the dummy. But you are so good at picking apart and showing us those different things and how they've gotten better, and it helps me immensely. Numbers and I just don't get along. So thank you very much.
Okay, before I forget, because I always forget, our next board meeting will be October 20th, 2025 at 7 p.m. here at the Civic Center. So again, October 20th, 7 p.m. here at the Civic Center. Again, I can echo the same thing that everybody's already said. You know, Ms. Preston, I appreciate this presentation. It really speaks volume and the way that our district is going. And again, I go back to our staff. I appreciate them for showing up. I appreciate our students for showing up and putting their best foot forward. Mr. Mason, again, they highlighted it. Today's presentation was perfect. This is what board meetings should be about, having our kids come in so we can see what's taking place, for lack of better words, under the hood, right? So we can see what's going on in our buildings. So your students, your staff, they did a great job. The parents, I appreciate them coming out on a Monday this late at night. So again, I appreciate all of that. I think with that being said, we do have a reason to go into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, and to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or student. Would someone like to make a motion?
We'll not be coming back out.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Again, there is no vote. We will not be coming back out. There will be no vote after this once we're done. Mr. Rudy, he seconded it. Any discussion on this? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn?
Yes.
Mr. Pat?
Yes.
4 yes.